Love Island. It's a show that I personally am not a fan of, but in recent years it's exploded in popularity in its summertime evening primetime slot on ITV2, to the point where you can buy personalised water bottles and even personalised robes from the show's online shop. The summer season airs from the Spanish island of Mallorca, just as Brits begin to dream of a sunny school holidays, and coincidentally, right when those in Year 11 take their GCSEs, their first proper public exams. So I was wondering, does the show, that currently nets about 4 million viewers a night, have any effect on the grades of those taking those exams? In order to find out, I decided to get the grade boundaries from every GCSE exam year since Love Island started, all in PDF, so I have to manually copy it out. That meant data from 2015 to 2019. 2020 is absent because, as we all know, the world ended in March that year and the GCSEs got cancelled, as well as the summer season of Love Island. I then manually copied out those grade boundaries and calculated the percentages to attain each grade for each subject, which had more than 30,000 entries in 2018 and 2019, and an exam, which means we already say goodbye to music and, ironically, statistics. Over 1,000 exams later, I had all the data I needed. I then took an average of the percentage needed to attain each grade before and after the Love Island start date, which should provide a good insight into how much of an effect the series had on the GCSE grades. So if we look at each year, we can see that in roughly 90% of cases, the percentages needed to attain a certain grade drops by a few percent immediately after Love Island starts airing. Brilliant, that proves it. So the answer to the question is not quite certain yet. Yes, there is a drop when Love Island starts airing, but we also see a similar difference when we look at the difference before and after half term. And I thought my job was going to be easy here. I still think there's a way to try and test my question though. Sadly, that method requires a tad more manual analysis. So please, as some sort of reward for this, subscribe with more content coming soon. So, the new method of figuring it out, matching up the day's exam grade percentages and the previous day's Love Island figures, because Love Island airs in the evening, not in the morning, and seeing if they correlate at all. Specifically, we're looking for a rise in viewing figures coinciding with a dip in the percentage needed to attain a certain grade. Now, the best way to see this is a graph. So I made 5 of them, one for each year, and we can see not a lot. In 5 years of Love Island and GCSEs, there are only 8 instances of a dip in grade percentages coinciding with a rise in Love Island viewership. That's kind of disappointing, but there's a number of reasons why, despite this, I might not be right. Reason 1 is that this is a fairly simple analysis. I'm using mean averages, which are great, they're simple, but notoriously inaccurate in data with potentially large variance. I'm not using fancy correlation coefficients or anything proper that mathematicians use, clearly putting that IB Maths course to great use. Reason number 2 is exam timetables. In a massive shock to everyone except exam officers, exam boards talk to each other and schedule exams in the same subject at the same time as the others. This is great for those days when maths, English and science is involved, as most, if not all, students in the UK have to take those subjects. But when it comes to history and religious studies, they have so many options, but so little uptake with students that sometimes not all of the options even have grade boundaries. Not everyone takes every subject, so the figures aren't accurate in that sense. One day may only reflect a certain subset of students. So that's another reason why this isn't a definitive answer. Reason 3 is that there might be other things at play here. I can't control for other events which GCSE exam takers might have experienced and affected their revision or their grades on maths. I'm also not running a fully controlled study where I can isolate Love Island as a variable. TLDR, there's a lot of things that I can't control. So I'm disappointed. I can't prove that Love Island affects GCSEs, but something tells me that there is some impact and there is a relationship between the two. The show has had a peak viewership of 6 million viewers, And a fairly large proportion of that, in my mind, must be year 10 and 11 students. There must be a link. I can't be the one to prove that, sadly, but maybe someone will see this video and think that they can. And if you do, please let me know the answer. Thank you for watching. What you can't see is that this is the one and only time I've managed to do a video in one take, which is kind of nice. If you're looking for more content, then there is a lovely video on every Eurovision entry from this year. I know it's now past Eurovision, but hey ho, bit of nostalgia for you. That was 30 minutes, took a while. There's also a video on Apple and antitrust. We're still awaiting the trial decision on that, but should be interesting when it comes out. And yeah, hit that like button, get subscribed for more content. Maybe like this, maybe not. We'll see. I'm just kind of playing around with things and seeing what happens. And yeah, I will see you later. Goodbye.